and welcome to The Drive, CBSNews.com show showing you who's up and who's down in the race for the Republican presidential nomination. A lot to talk about this week. It's the week of the Iowa straw poll, which is a very important week in the campaign. Let's take a look at where things stand for our candidates. Now, let's take a look at the board. We've got out at the 30-yard line, Mitt Romney, our front runner. Everyone's trying to get to the touchdown. Romney's on the 30. In the back, we've got Newt Gingrich bringing up the rear with his terribly run campaign thus far. And then we've got all of the other candidates in the middle. I want to start this week talking about Michelle Bachmann. You see her here. She's on about the 16-yard line, a little bit behind our front runner, but certainly in the hunt. Now, it's been a really interesting week for her, starting with this Newsweek cover. She was on the cover of Newsweek this week, and there was this picture of her, you see it on screen now, with these big eyes. People were calling it crazy eyes. One website compared the picture to a picture of Charles Manson. And a lot of people said this reflected liberal media bias or sexism for a female candidate. Just a lot of things that were very negative. The story itself also had a lot of negative stuff. It pointed to sort of possible hypocrisy for her family taking subsidies while she rails against such subsidies. There was also a negative New Yorker story this week. So I think it wasn't a great week for her. The other disadvantage she has now is that she's expected to win these the Iowa straw poll, which you think that's great. But the expectations have gotten a little bit out of control. If she doesn't win it easily, then it's going to be seen as something of a hit for her. So I'm going to take her, I'm going to move her back. Let's see, draw a little arrow. We will put her back to about the 12-yard line. That's Michelle Bachmann. Now I want to talk next about Tim Pawlenty. We've got him up here on the 15. Pawlenty is a guy who's been running for president for a long time and just never really caught on. There was a perception that he's too nice. He was expected to sort of emerge as the alternative to Romney, and that hasn't really happened. People are talking more about someone like Rick Perry on that front. So what Pawlenty has done is he's invested really heavily in this straw poll. He knows a strong finish in the straw poll could re-energize his campaign, so they've been throwing tons of resources at doing well in the straw poll. So if he can emerge on Saturday with a big day, if he can say, I won the straw poll with an upset over Bachmann, or even come close to Bachmann, it's going to help his campaign out a lot. So this is really a make or break week for Pawlenty. I'm going to leave him here on the 15 for now, only because we don't know what's going to happen yet on Saturday, but rest assured, Tim Pawlenty will be moving next week, and we'll have to see in what direction that happens. Now, the last person I want to talk about is Rick Perry, the Texas governor. We have him on the 20 right now. You'll see him right here. Now, Perry is really angering a lot of these other people because his campaign has made it known that on Saturday, the same day that the straw poll results will be announced, Perry is going to be de facto announcing his presidential campaign. It's not going to be a formal announcement, but he's going to make his plans known. Perry's also coming off of this prayer event. You're seeing some video of that now. This prayer event last Saturday, he got 30,000 people to Reliant Stadium in Texas, and he basically held what a lot of people called an evangelical revival. Now, there are those that say this is going to hurt Perry because he's seen as this very religious guy. He's more religious even than George W. Bush. But, you know, he showed he could bring a crowd. He's basically stepping on some of these other candidates on Saturday who expected to get a big boost. And so I think things are going relatively well for Rick Perry right now. We're going to move him up a little bit from the 20. He's not quite going to catch Mitt Romney, our front runner, but he's back right behind him now. You'll see, so our two front runners at this point are Mitt Romney in the front and Rick Perry. I think we're going to wrap it up there. Now, I want people to understand that the straw poll is sort of a media creation. It shows who's well organized. It doesn't necessarily predict who's going to win the caucuses and not who's going to win the nomination. But in politics, perception is reality. And if you can do well in an event like this, it brings in donors, it brings positive media coverage. And even though it only represents the opinions of a few hardcore Republicans in Iowa, which isn't representative of the entire electorate, it does make a difference. So keep your eye on Saturday, what comes out of the straw poll. Keep your eye on how much Rick Perry can influence the coverage of that straw poll with his announcement on Saturday. And be sure to check back with CBSNews.com next week for our next episode of The Drive, where we take stock of the fallout from the straw poll and talk about what comes next. I'm CBSNews.com senior political reporter Brian Montopoli. Thanks for being with us on The Drive, and we will see you next time.